Okay, I'm gonna see if I can uh, actually video this. First thing I need to do is get the thread. So the thread should be at, at least double the length of the seam, but you also have to take into account the the layers. So let's say you're dealing with 2 millimeters of thickness. That means you need to account for that as well, which is something I didn't learn about at the beginning. But I was using much cheaper thread, so I was usually just cutting way more than I needed. But now I try to get it as close to correct as possible because this thread is quite expensive. It's also not easy to cut. I use a file to make these a little serrated so it cuts it a little bit better. And then also holding it while you cut it usually does the trick. But a normal pair of scissors has a really tough time with this Dyneema thread. Okay, so this thing was made with a bobbin holder at the bottom. You can take this out and put a bobbin in there, and it goes out this little hole and then up, and it's supposed to feed you thread, but I found that it was way too finicky. So what I started doing was just cutting the amount of thread that I need, sticking it through this hole here. And then simply thread the needle. Okay, so thread the needle, and the thread should be more or less equal on both sides of the needle. Oh, it's hard to see that. Yeah. So you do have to account for the thread from here to here. So it should be a little bit longer on the on this side. And basically, once I do the first puncture, the first stick, then I'll pull the thread through the other side, and then I'll measure them up. Oh yeah, another thing. Getting this right here, putting this back on. So the thread needs to be running alongside that little groove. See that? Needs to be running straight. Usually I'm much faster. You don't have to have this on, but it just gives you a little bit more stability. Throat is starting to hurt from all this talking. Okay. It's going to be impossible to really see closely. I mean, really, especially how I really need to focus. So, ideally, I'm not going to be looking at the video at all. Okay. All right. So, what I do to start is I do a lock stitch to start. And because we're going to also be sewing the edges, you know, there's seams on the bottom edge and the side edge. I don't usually go all the way to the end to start out because I'm going to be sewing the edges as well. If that makes any sense at all. This is impossible to see it, and not to mention it's all black. That's funny. Let's see. Need to focus. Alright, let's go for it. Okay, through the fabric. You can see there it creates a little loop right there. That's crazy. That little loop. So I'm going to, what I usually do actually is I use this and I stick it through, and then that holds the thread in place, and then I hold this thread here so it doesn't pull. I pull the needle out, so now you have thread on both sides of the fabric. And now I pull this thread out the other side of the fabric. Okay, now I have thread on both sides of the fabric now. Let's see if I can go out a little bit more. So thread on both sides of the fabric, and like I said, these should basically be about even, but you should have a little bit more on the opposite side. So I always measure them side by side, make sure I have a little bit more on the opposite side. And so now we've made one puncture through the fabric, okay? And now I will make the second puncture. Okay. Okay, let's see if I can zoom in a little bit. Okay, second puncture. Now I'll get the end of the thread. Pull it out a little bit, the needle creates a little loop. Put the thread through that loop. Pull it out. Okay, so now you can see right there the beginnings of the lock stitch. Okay, now I've got this thread on this side. Gosh, dude, it's crazy. It's very difficult. Okay, so I've got the thread on this side. So what I do is I wrap it around my finger, gives it tension, a little tension with this finger. Now pull it tight. That creates the lock stitch, and the more you do this, the more, well, for myself, over the years of doing it, I can feel when the knot from the lock stitch is inside of the layers of fabric. So you pull it tight and you can feel it sort of snap into place. So that means it's inside the fabric, the lock stitch. I mean, that's exactly what a sewing machine does. So that's one stitch. One single stitch. Pretty amazing, isn't it? So let's see, let's go back. So now I'm going to double back over the same stitch. Okay. And this is going to be stitch number 2. Okay, so now you got a really strong lock stitch right here. 2 times over each other. That's not going anywhere. Okay, so it's got a lock here and a lock here. 2 locks back to back. Now I will start the rest of the show. this is very tight. This fabric's pretty tough to push through, but it's not too bad. Maybe you can imagine how this can be very, very meditative. So there you go. Let's do one more. What kind of view is that? It's hard to see anything. I get it, but I can't compromise. So I line each stitch up like this. See? Lock stitch, double lock right there. First zig, zag. And on this zag, I'm going down and I'm really measuring it up exactly where I want it. And so I do the entire seam exactly like this. Now, of course, when I'm not videoing, I get into a nice rhythm. And it goes fairly quick. A line like this should take me about maybe 30-45 minutes or so. So it's not too crazy. I'll do one more and then we'll take a look. All right, nice, looking good. All right, let's see if I can get that. Okay, so I'm gonna do the whole line. I was planning on maybe videoing the whole thing, but I don't know. I mean, is that crazy? Seems a little bit crazy. Would I watch somebody do this on YouTube? I don't know. It's a good question. Maybe I would. In fact, it's quite funny. I do watch a couple of guys that do shoe repair. Steve at Beto's Leatherwork, and they have machines. Him and what's the other guy's name? God, I can't remember his name. He's from the Tring Key and Shoe Repair. He's based out of the UK in a small little, they're both in small little towns. Steve is in somewhere in America, I think in like Virginia. And the other guy, which I can't remember his name, he's in the UK, in a small little village as well. And they both have machines that will do the stitching, of course. But every now and then they will come apart, like they'll come to a place where it makes a lot of sense to do it by hand. For whatever reason, maybe it's too difficult to get in with the machine. And they'll do it by hand, and they'll video a little bit of it, but I'm always, because I do this, I'm always wishing that they would show more of that. And they talk about it being meditative as well, but you couldn't run an actual business like that. You know, like if you're trying to, if you have a lot of work to do, I mean, it's just, no, you can't do it. Really not possible. There's a delivery. I need to go check that out. So, yeah, it's going good. I'm videoing right now the stitching.
Okay, so I'll leave you.
Okay. Yeah, so when they do it, they often talk about that they do enjoy it, but they also talk about it being time consuming. I think they basically avoid it whenever possible. They even have crazy machines that will do stitching on the insole of a shoe, which is pretty wild how it can do that. I love watching it because it's such a cool thing. And to think that these machines have been around for so long, you can imagine as soon as we figured out the industry, you know, the sewing machine. I mean, that thing is incredible. It can do this line in what? 5 seconds. So yeah, I think it's pretty cool machine. I do plan on getting a machine at some point. Just, I mean, out of curiosity, yes, but I think if this does turn into something that I do want to try to sell more bags, doing it all by hand is just not, it's not feasible. Sometimes the little loop doesn't pop out as much as it should. So sometimes you got to give it a little help. Doing this on video is definitely not easy as well. Okay. So this is a zigzag stitch, but I am going to go back over it with the double reverse. So this is one of 2 stitches for this one seam. I think I'm getting that right. I've been using the word seam. I think that's the correct way to use it. Yeah, this is actually working out a little better than I thought it would. I was a little nervous actually that it was going to be too tight, but it looks like it's actually, I'm twisting it here because this fabric is quite dense, and this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 layers of the X50 Tactical. So it's 2 bottom layers, 1 back panel, 1 pocket, so that's 4, and then you got the binding, both sides of the binding, that's 6. So that's 6 layers of some really dense fabric. I mean, you know, it doesn't just go through without any effort. It takes effort to push it through, and by twisting it you're kind of working it in through the fabric without sort of forcing it through. To be honest, I could probably change the needle on this. I was sewing some really dense fabric the other day. I was repairing this chair, and actually I think I probably made this needle a little bit dull. So I probably should change it out. Maybe I'll do that after this. If I break a needle or break a thread, I can fix it like in the moment without messing up the stitch. Not ideal, but it is doable. So I could change out the needle now, but I'm not going to. It's not necessary. I will do it before the next one though, because I can see that it is a little dull. I mean, it's still sharp, but yeah, definitely not as sharp as it could be. Here we go, here we go. Progress, progress. One clip at a time. Now, how is this for my body? Bending over like this? It's sort of, I'm not bending over completely, but it is tough on my back. I am paying attention to my back and noticing, the muscles contracting, and trying to keep my core tightened as much as possible. Of course, I've poked my fingers quite a few times, much less in the recent years. But yeah, it does happen. It's funny how it sort of always shocks you. It always is a little surprising when it happens. And yeah, I mean, it does hurt, doesn't it? Sort of, I mean, it doesn't hurt, it sort of shocks you, basically. It's very satisfying doing this. This is one of the easiest seams to sew for me, actually, because it's so like flat and like sitting up, and I can see both sides quite easily. But it also happens that that's not the case always. Sometimes it's really awkward positioning to be able to get the thread through the loop. I've done it some crazy situations where it's really difficult, and you're just basically sort of bending over backwards, trying to get it in, especially without poking yourself or messing it up. Look at that, catching it on a oh, you couldn't see it. Sometimes the thread catches on something and yeah, it sort of pulls it out, and you gotta start it over. I don't know, like the actual tension. You can adjust tension on a machine, and it will be even throughout the seam. I mean, that's kind of course, it's an art. It's not exactly a science. You can have all the settings in place on a machine and still get it really wrong. There is some feeling to it, but this is this is on a different level of feeling. This is absolutely 100% feeling all the way. So where I was going with that is, I don't know how much pressure or how much pressure I'm actually giving this when I'm making this lock stitch, but with this thread, I'm able to give it quite a lot. I don't know, but how could I test that? Yeah, maybe I can press down on that and with that same force and sort of, I don't know, get it somewhat close, like how much pressure I'm putting on it. That would be a little guesstimation there. As you can see, this is not a race. This is not something that you're like, oh, let me just sew this together real quick. And again, this is one. I need to go back and do the reverse. This is just the zigzag one. I then need to do the double reverse. Woo! So it is addicting though, like doing this. When I start on a project, once I've started like this, it is very difficult. That's not the right way to put it. It's not actually difficult to stop. I get into a rhythm, and you just sort of want to keep on going. When I run, it's like that. I go on these really long runs, 2.5, well, not really long, but 2.5, 3 hours. And yeah, once I get going, it's just, my body is just in such a rhythm, and the breathing. One thing I'm doing is, because the thread does get a little sort of separated at the end, which makes it a little bit difficult to put through the loop. So I do sort of give it a little lick now and then. Yeah, but there's something about this. There's also the completion of the project where well, for me, I know that there's no other way to get it done other than doing it. Like each freaking stitch. So because that's the case, I don't know. It's like this drive that just pushes me, and I get obsessed with it. You know, I really do. I'll sew from, you know, all day long. I'll just do it all day long. Listen to music, listen to a podcast, you know, sort of in the background, and just keep going. Keep going and keep going. Now, I will get, eventually I will get too tired. But that too tired usually coincides with dinner around 8 o'clock. So it really is an all-day project for me, which I love. I really, really, really love it. I do make time to go run, though. That's one thing that I don't give up when I'm doing this. I do still go run every other day. I need that. I mean, that sort of gives me the vibrancy, the energy, the breathing, the nature, the dirt, the running, the sweat. That gives me the maybe the endorphins. I guess it's sort of such an opposite of this in a lot of ways that it helps this. I don't know. Well, anyway, I love running regardless. So yeah, it is difficult though. Sometimes, I don't want to go run. I'm like, oh God, I want to keep going with this. But I sort of force myself to do it because, not force myself, but remind myself. I wonder if you can see me licking that. Remind myself that it's awesome and it's going to feel great. This is looking pretty good. I'm actually quite impressed. Whew. I usually am not talking as well, so that is also tiring. Talking for the camera is really tiring. In fact, I probably should try this on the next one and not talk. Do a little ASMR. That feels very, very good. Feels tight and sharp. I know you can see that one. That's funny. Anyway, riveting. I guess it's not riveting, it's sewing. Riveting would be something else. Funny. I do have another little project coming up though. I'm excited about that. It's sort of something I've been wanting to try to do for a while, but never really had a good way of doing it. Sometimes this gets a little messed up. I don't know why. Yeah, there we go. A little project I've been wanting to do for a while, which is try to capture the run that I do, the 2.5 hour run that I do, try and capture that on video. Now, the idea was to try to, thought of different ways using a drone, but that would just be impossible. I couldn't do it, that's for sure, and I don't know anybody that could do it, and battery wouldn't even last that long, so it's just useless. But they have this new Insta360 X5 that is, I think, up for the challenge. So I'm gonna try. Running is I always run alone, and it's such a solo thing that nobody ever gets to see. Like my wife, she would never get to see sort of what I'm experiencing. And it is such a crazy run. I mean, of course it's not going to be the same, and I don't know how it's going to turn out. The idea is to try to capture what it's like to be on a run like that. And the trail that I do out here where we live is pretty badass. It's the best trail like that I've ever been near to living near. It's just very, very good. And it's got a lot of rolling hills, hill climbs, fast-paced single track, no people anywhere. It's pretty awesome. So I am all right. I think we're at the end. I'm gonna stop there and go back one, lock this in. Anyway, I'm gonna try. I think it would be cool. And apparently the battery on this thing lasts like 3 hours, so it should be plenty to actually record the entire run. So I'm gonna try that. See what happens. I'm curious. They have has this invisible selfie stick. Anyway, all right, so that's it. That is one zigzag down. I'm gonna go, let's see, this one. Let's go back this way. So when I get to the end of a stitch, I always do a few reverses. They do that same thing on a sewing machine. They go back over the ends a few times to just sort of lock it in there. But I don't have a sewing machine, so I just do it like this. I go back over it. Can you imagine like doing this? I mean, there's no way I don't think you would go from, okay, so now I'm sticking this through the loop and I'm going to pull the needle out. So now I'm going to pull the thread. God, it's stuck over there. It's stuck here. I need to get something else. So now I'm going to pull this thread through. So now the thread's on the same side. Okay, two pieces. Okay. Okay, and I'm going to lock that up with a knot. You still have to do this with a sewing machine. Okay. All right. That's it. Oh, yes. Look at that beauty. So that is one zigzag. Now I will go back over it with the reverse. So it'll be a double reverse zigzag. I guess that'll be my sort of specialty. Yeah, I nailed it. Absolutely perfect. Look at that. So that's one. How long did that take? 41 minutes. Oh, man. Okay. So that is one down. So we got, so basically there's 2 per line. So that's 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16. So there's 16 total on the bag, and then I'll have this also to sew. But that, let's just say 16. So 16 times 40. 16 times 40. See, I mean, that's, what is that? I mean, that's 18 hours of sewing. And what did I say? It takes about 30 hours total for the complete bag. So yeah, that's about right. They're not all that, they don't all take that long. So of course some are shorter. But yeah, so 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16. Yeah. And you also have, like, this will be a seam that needs to be sewed. I'll flip this down. And then, you know, the whole flap will need to be sewn, and then all the trimmings on the front. Yeah. It was taking way longer, actually, because originally I was sewing the fabric together and then putting on the binding and sewing the binding. But when I started sewing with this VX fabric, I was like, why am I doing that? I shouldn't do that. I guess it turned out quite nice, actually. Okay. That's one. I mean, quite frankly, I don't need to do a double reverse, but I'm going to. This is the back bottom seam. I mean, absolutely 100% this could handle it, no matter what she threw at it because of this thread and this fabric, but I'm going to do the double reverse. I mean, come on. Of course I am. Okay, I'm going to leave it there.